Okay, wait, I have a question, and this kind of relates back to stuff we talked to earlier. We had Casey Roderick on, and we were talking about how he ran that GMS car at Iowa last year. It was a one-off deal, got to race once, and the conversation brought up of, like, these kids that are getting sponsorship and money are holding out, like, their sponsorship to do 3 races in a KBM truck or 2 races in a GMS Xfinity car where you've taken, sponsorship dollars, spread them out, and ran full seasons for Johnny Davis or ran full seasons for whoever in lesser equipment. Is there, if you had an opinion, what would you choose to do for that kind of stuff? Do you know what I mean? Like, what's the pro-con in that? Because we debated it, and there was very split opinions on to take sponsorship and run 3 good races or run a full season.
Yeah, it's tough. I remember that race with Casey because I raced with him most of the race in the 4-car, and there was just things that how we restart and how you can manipulate the starts. And the first lap, we could all take advantage of Casey, but after 3 laps here, he'd come back. So if he would have had more starts, he's ran Xfinity races before, but it had been a while. So it'd be the same thing if I went and ran a super or a crate car against him. He would kick my butt because he knows how to manipulate the car and get it through that first lap is really important. But I wouldn't trade how I did it. I also wouldn't wish it on anybody because it's tough.
Yeah.
You think about the first couple of years I was in the sport. It's the ugly truth, but every driver that comes in NASCAR self-funds their way in. Like I don't care. That's the way it is. So you're self-funding to run 15th in an Xfinity car. Or really not even that. That was a sponsorship deal, but the truck stuff, running self-funding to run 15th in trucks at the beginning and got into Brad's and still self-funding most of it. And that's tough. And then not to win, you're expected to win now. You're in Brad Keselowski, just won the Cup Championship. Ryan Blaney's won a race. He won a race the year before at Iowa, and then he won Pocono when I was there. And that's when it's tough. That was the most stressed I've ever been, and people that were friends with me before, during, and after that period, they'd tell me how much of a I was. Because I was so stressed. I felt like the world was against me, and nobody was my friend, and
Gosh,
why is the world against me?
So glad you said that. I thought the same thing. No,
I was. And you put a lot of pressure on me, and Blaney's out there, running better. And by the second half of the year, like you said earlier, we caught up to him. But no, I guess back to your question, there's no right or wrong way. But I wasn't ready even when I got in Brad's truck, let alone. And I needed 3 years in the Xfinity car at Johnny's to get better.
I think no matter what you do, I wish you could take what you know now. And wish you knew now what you knew. Wish you knew then what you know now.
But these guys there's opportunities with Johnny Davis. There's opportunities with the Siegs, different cars. There's opportunities to get laps. It's just everybody. I hear them say, "Well, I can't do that because it hurt my reputation." It's like nobody cares. Nobody in Cup is watching unless you win the race. Nobody. They don't know Xfinity or truck. Mr. Hendrick, Joe Gibbs. All those guys. Chip Ganassi, he did not know me until I got in his car.
You won it and never met him.
Let me ask you this. So we'll take a guy, Bubba Pollard, has enough money.
Redneck Jesus.
Has enough money to run a full season with Johnny Davis, or has enough money to run 5 races with KBM. What do you think he should do?
Just go run all those races at Johnny's.
Really?
Hands down.
See, and I think Bubba's well-rounded enough and like a good enough driver that I think he could go and perform really well in those KBM deals, but could he probably win? No, maybe not.
It's all little things, executing.
But like a lot of these young kids that are jumping in and doing like straight to Xfinity and straight to, KBM, I'm like, no, those 14, 15, 16-year-old kids need to be turning laps.
I think he's going to make more of a name for himself running the KBM stuff.
Agreed.
I do think he'll get used on restarts a little bit until he gets a hang of it. But, hopefully if he has 5 races, hopefully by the 3rd or 4th race, he's got a better idea of it. I think he's going to go to a mile and a half and be out to lunch for a little while. But I think you have a better chance of making your name known by running those 5 races and running good in 1 or 2 of them, possibly winning one, going winning in Iowa or something like that, and then getting more races from that than you do. I think it's hard to do what you did. I don't think many people could go through and do it.
Making your name known by running a KBM truck, what does that get you?
If you run good, people like when you run good. People like winners.
You're not going to get a sponsor if you go win a KBM in a KBM truck in a truck race. You're not going to get any more sponsors.
Yeah, if you had enough money to run 5 race KBM, we're not talking like the next year. what do you go and do? I'm going to go run 5 races and be competitive until I mess up.
You won't be able to execute.
Well, I'm going to mess up for sure, but I mean, I'm going to be running against you. I'm going to be running against other guys. You're going to beat me on restarts and stuff, but if it's a long run, my truck's probably going to be pretty good, and a guy like Bubba is pretty good at a long run and late model stuff. I think he would he knows what to do to set up a pass on a guy at a short track like that. Mile and a half is a different story. He's going to be out to lunch, but if he were to pick out the short tracks to start with, and then maybe add in a mile and a half. To me personally, it would be more beneficial and more fun to go and do something like that than it would be.
Definitely be more fun.
But I mean, as far as getting track time, if you're setting yourself up for down the road, I mean, maybe if you have a 3-year deal, something like that, then maybe that's a better path. But if he has to go and prove himself, people don't get enough time to prove themselves right now.
Well, that's like if you bring up, we talk about Haley Deegan all the time.
You got to come in and win now. I think
the smartest thing she did, she had every opportunity to move up to ARCA or run a partial truck, partial K&N, whatever schedule. But last year, at the end of the year, they said, no, we're going to go back. We're going to run a K&N West Series again and then dabble in some ARCA. But they're just doing that to build that mile and a half exposure. But she is getting those laps and getting those seat time because she has the money and she has the backing to go run 5-6 KBM truck races right now. But I think they're being smart and getting her the laps, getting her the seat time so that she can commit as she goes up instead of having the 4 races, the 5 races, and setting herself up for failure.
If I knew I had 4 or 5 years, 4 years of if you knew you had that in the bank to go and run and get that track experience and then get into a good, car, truck, whatever, I think that's the path to take. But if you got to perform now, everything's performed now. Like you got to win.
The window.
You've got to win. You've got to perform now. They don't want to wait at a year and a half. They don't want to wait 2 years and then move. You know what I mean? But
I disagree.